Ruth helped the kids dress. In the haste, they forgot the life belts, didn't put them on. And up they went to a public room up toward the top. Ruth couldn't remember which, but they waited for some time in a public room, a second-class room, for more directions. And then at some point, they were led outside, and they waited out there. And she said she watched the distress rockets going off. She didn't call them distress rockets. She just said, watch the fireworks. We quizzed her about that. I asked her, you know, do you remember any color in those rockets? Because there's a controversy if they were all white or were they colored. I don't remember, but I watched 5 of them. She remembered 5. There was a commotion going on. Just immediately, get in the lifeboat. And an officer was directing her mother and her siblings to a lifeboat, which was boat 11, which was quite crowded. And there was just a lot of confusion at that moment. No panic, no screaming. She said, I never remembered any of that like you see in some of the movies. It was calm, people were polite, but it was now, get in the boat. And the kids were handed into Lifeboat 11, including Richard. And then the officer said, that's it, no more for this boat. And Ruth's mother screamed out, oh, please let me go with my children. And the officer relented and allowed her to get in. But Ruth was still standing on the deck, you know, holding these blankets. She used the word scared. She just said, that was exciting. And they reached the water. And it turns out that where Lifeboat 13 came down was very near the condenser discharge of Titanic. Now, the condenser discharge is a huge rush of water being ejected from the side of the ship. And that point in the hull is right at the pivot point throughout most of the sinking. It was at the waterline before the ship ever struck the iceberg, and it was right at the waterline still when Lifeboat 13 came down in the water. Just a little bit aft of that discharge, and the flow of that surging water, because the engines, the steam was still working and so forth, and the water was surging out. And Lawrence Beasley describes this exact same thing. He was also in Lifeboat 13. And it sort of pushed Boat 13 aft a little bit and made the davit falls more taut so that they couldn't release the blocks from the hooks, and they were kind of stuck to the davit falls. And they were yelling up, you know, nobody could hear because of noise. Well, here comes the next boat, boat 15. So they were all starting to yell up, stop lowering, we're right under here, we can't get the falls undone. The boat kept coming down until the men in boat 13, Ruth's boat, could actually touch the bottom of